was no bang in outer space, but there was a flash.
Welcome to the Doc Speaks show on Intention Radio. I am your co-host CyberGino, and here is your host Doc, a voice that speaks to you from the internet wilderness deep in cyberspace.
Thank you, CyberGina, for that wonderful introduction. And I'm the Doc, and this is the Doc Speak show on Intention Radio. And I'm the voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness, deep in cyberspace. Now, we were talking about covenant last week, a contract. And we were talking about how God, the landlord of a garden, gave Adam, his tenant, dominion over the garden and over everything that was in it. And the only requirement that he had on this lease, this covenant, was not to eat of a particular fruit in the garden. Now, we all know that, and most theologians will say that man was disobedient, broke the contract by eating of the fruit. Now, the one thing that is overlooked, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is that a theft was committed. When Adam and Eve were disobedient by breaking the covenant, by breaking the contract, in order to do so, they had to steal something. So now let's go back to the analogy I used last week about someone says to you, how would you like to live in my multi-million-dollar home rent-free? But here's what you have to do is, I don't want you to go into the attic and remove anything. Because if you do, you break the lease and I kick you out. Now, would you go into the attic and see something and say, "Ooh, this could look really nice if I bring it downstairs"? Would you do that? Or would you put a padlock on the door to make sure nobody gets in? Well, if you brought something out, you took possession of something that doesn't belong to you. In the case of Adam and Eve, when they took the fruit off the tree, when she takes the fruit off the tree, she now stole something that was not part of the agreement. She took a possession that didn't belong to her. Now, when she eats of it and gives it to Adam and he eats of it, now they are both in possession of something that God did not give them permission to have, and that was knowledge. So now God is upset and boots them out because they broke the lease, but also because what was stolen can't be returned. They stole knowledge. God didn't give them the permission to have knowledge. They took it upon themselves, or better yet, they were tricked into it because the serpent didn't want them to be a ruler over him in the garden. So they were lured and tempted into stealing and taking possession of knowledge. Because what does the serpent say? He says, "Oh, no, if you eat from that fruit, you'll be like God." He tempted them into stealing knowledge. Now, we often hear about original sin. And original sin, goes back to obedience. Well, I always, even as a kid, I said to myself, well, what is exactly is what's original sin? Where's that attached to me? How do I know I got original sin? Oh, because your ancestors were disobedient. Yeah, but how does that affect me? How is that part of who I am? You see. Now, I've been fasting and praying and meditating and so on and so forth. And I produced this show, and it's going on 1.5 years. And I'm always looking for new ideas. And I pray about it. And this is what came to me, that I'm in possession of stolen goods. I am in possession of a stolen good. And I used that analogy last week also, that if your parent stole a painting and he dies and now you're in possession of it, you're still in possession of stolen goods. You could still go to jail because you're not bringing it back. You didn't say, hey, my dad took this, he's dead now, and I want to return it. How do you return knowledge? You don't. So we're still in possession of stolen goods. And when we look at the Bible, what do we see? We see that man, having stolen knowledge, now abuses it. And that would be like going into, the rich man's home, taking a painting out that's worth millions and then defacing it. Imagine what that landlord would think, what that person would think. You just ruined $1 million painting. You just ruined a multi-million-dollar painting. He's going to be very upset with you. Well, that's what we do with his possession called knowledge. Man has constantly and continues to abuse the idea of knowledge and what knowledge is and how to be good and how to use knowledge for the good. That's what man continues to do with God's possession of knowledge. And when a man comes along who somehow is wise, somehow who is faithful, is now using that brain power knowledge correctly. And what do we see happening? We see that God now begins to communicate with that individual. See, now Adam and Eve knew who God was by sight, not by faith, but by an actual sight. So they sinned and were casted out, and it's not by, and now we don't see them doing anything to redeem themselves. I don't read them begging for mercy. I don't see them throwing them down at his feet. So apparently, what happens when they become afraid of God, because now they understand what fear is, but do they become faithful, begging for mercy couple? I don't read it, and possibly it didn't happen. But now, and then we see, Cain kills Abel, so we wonder what goes on in the parent's mind when that happens. Seth comes along, and obviously he's a little better, but we don't hear him being extremely faithful. It's not until we get to Enoch that we find this man using God's knowledge properly. And as a result, what does God do? God invites him to heaven and shows him, hey, this is what your parents blew. This is what your parents messed up. Here's what grandpa or great grandpa did to screw things up. Now, see, I want to show you around. Now, The other reason why I'm showing you around is because there's a lot of demons running around taking humans for wives, and they really messing things up. So I wanted you to see that, so that maybe now, having seen this, and because you've been faithful, that you'll begin to correct the minds and help them develop properly. So we know that he returns, he shares his knowledge, and then eventually God takes him up, which, by the way, is not ascension. Ascension means I go up because I'm capable of sending myself. Being taken is a whole nother ball game, because there are theologians that want to dispute that component as well. Now, and that's another show. So we have now Enoch, who most likely, because he's still around during Noah's day, and in fact, he probably dies just a little before the flood, and he prophesizes about the flood as well. And here we have, now that's not in the Bible. You have to go to the book of Enoch, which is part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and a lot of people don't believe in it, but that's what that book says. At any rate, we know that he had to be around, and obviously his great-grandson must have listened to him speak. And he too becomes a righteous man, and taking knowledge and listening to his ancestor, the patriarch of the family possibly at that time, and starts to emulate and believing the way Enoch did. And as a result, God finds favor in Noah because of the fact that he is using knowledge properly, even though he's still in possession of stolen goods. Because, see, that's what knowledge is, the possession of stolen goods. And how do we use this stolen good? So God now says, oh, these guys are in, I see a couple of people here that are trying to use my knowledge properly. So as a result, I'm going to intervene and create a covenant with them and help them develop further, since they are in possession of my knowledge. You see. And this is original sin. Original sin lies in the fact that not only did Adam and Eve disobey God, but they stole knowledge. They took from God something that was not given to them. And that's where the original sin lies. See, God didn't say, you can have my knowledge. He did offer them eternal life. They didn't eat that from that tree. They ate from the tree that they were told not to. So that was the one tree that God said you can't have. Now, when you take it, you're a thief. I got money on, I got my wallet over there. Don't touch it. Now, if you touch it and you take the money, you're a thief. You did two things. You disobeyed me and you stole from me. And that's what Adam and Eve did. They stole knowledge. And now man possesses that knowledge as a result. So all men are in possession of a stolen good, which then says, you can't get to heaven now. Now you really can't get, you can't get to heaven now for sure because of it. Because of that, you see? So now we're going to take a break. This is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio, and we're going to be right back to continue this thought of being in possession of stolen goods, knowledge. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere.
People tend to live with conflicting thoughts between their mental and emotional consciousness, and as a result, they end up blocking their own successes. In choosing one theme, Dr. Anthony Raimondo directs the reader to find truth and satisfaction in 2 easy steps, available at tapepublishing.com.
Doc is always in search of new original Christian music in all styles and genres to air on the show. He also loves to have guests on the show with exciting personal stories concerning a personal relationship with Christ. For more information, send an email to doc@docspeaksshow.com. If you would like a copy of Doc's book, Choosing One Theme, it is available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also visit our producer's website, acceleratingevolutionllc.com. Now back to the Doc Speaks Show.
We are back. I am CyberGino, and this is the Doc Speaks Show on Intention Radio, and here is your host, Doc.
Thank you, CyberGino, for bringing us back. And this is the Doc Speaks Show on Intention Radio. And I'm a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness, deep in cyberspace. And today I'm talking about how man stole knowledge, and which is part of the disobedience that Adam and Eve occurred when they ate from the tree of knowledge. So now we're all in possession of a stolen piece of property. And now we're looking at some of the people or some of the men who began to use knowledge properly. And as a result, God begins to bless them and have a closer relationship with them, even though we're still in possession of a stolen good and we're no longer in the garden. And now God looks at us, or looks at those individuals who begin to use knowledge properly. And let's look at some of the verses in the Bible that deal with knowledge. Proverbs 1:7 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. See, and that's pretty evident because God can take us out anytime he wants, any way he wants. And to not have that fear that he could do that to us if he chose is being foolish. Because then you just do what you please, like so many people today. And then we have people that not only do what they please, but then the media actually rewards them and calls them heroes for the lack of knowledge that they have. So, fear. And I'm thinking that Enoch at some point must have said, yeah, wow, God cast, my ancestor out of the garden. And, he could really do a number on us if he chose. Noah must have felt the same way because he feared God and says, hey, people, look, you have to do the right thing. Stop doing what you're doing because it's going to end up in a disaster. And he did that for a long time, 120 years, they say. So now here's God says, okay, you've been rightful. You feared me. You knew what I could do. So I'm going to save you while I kill everybody else. But see, we have people today that don't believe that could happen again. Well, not by a flood, but that God could do that to us. But he can. Job 28:28. And he said to man, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to turn away from evil is understanding. Again, we have the same idea. That God could do this to us anytime he pleases. He could take us out and punish us in the most drastic ways. So we really need to say, God can do this, and I need to behave myself, and I need to use this gift. Well, this piece of stolen property that I have in a manner that is good and pleasing. I have this possession wrongly to begin with, and that's my original sin. James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. Notice, asking for wisdom. Now, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the proper use of knowledge. So, of course, God will grant that prayer. And we know that he does, because if we go to 1 Kings chapter 3, 5 through 12, we read about how Solomon says and asks God for forgiveness. And I want you to notice that what he calls himself. I am but a little child. I do not know to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern this your great people? So who is able? Now what's he said? Now notice he says a couple of key things here that we were talking about in earlier shows. Number one, he calls himself a servant to God. Now, as a servant to God, Solomon wants wisdom, the right kind of understanding, in order to govern God's people. He wants to be able to discern from good and evil. He wants the right use for wisdom, the right use of knowledge. He wants to be able to discern from good and evil. And what does God do? And God said to him, because you have asked this and have not asked for yourself long life or riches, or for the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right, behold, I now do according to your word. God says, now I'm going to give you that. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now I'm going to give you that because you asked for the right thing. You asked for the right thing. You asked how to use knowledge correctly. How many of us are looking at how to use knowledge correctly? How many of us fear God? It seems that less and less every day. Daniel 2:21. He changes time and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. Now, David is saying that he even adds to that. And we know because we've seen what he does with Solomon. He gives him greater discernment, greater wisdom in order to use knowledge correctly. Psalm 119:66. 119:66. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, For I believe in your commandments. Teach me good judgment and knowledge. Again, asking God how to use this possession that we have gotten illegally. How do we use knowledge? And by using knowledge correctly, God sees us. Or asking God for knowledge and to use it correctly, God answers us because he now sees that we want to use his property correctly. Proverbs 16:22. Good sense is a fountain of life to him who has it, but the instructions of the fools is folly. Good sense is a fountain of life. See, now God's even telling us that by using his wisdom, by using his knowledge properly, we can obtain long life. God blesses us with long life, and probably a healthy one. Why? Because we're using the possession that our ancestors stole, and now we're in possession of it. There's no way to return it except to use it properly. God sees that we use knowledge properly and blesses us. Proverbs 1:5. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. Again, you see, by understanding and using knowledge properly, God guides us. He leads us. Because now we become the rightful servant. Because we're using his property correctly. We're in possession of it wrongly. The best that we can do now is at least to use it properly. Ecclesiastes 7:12. For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. By using knowledge properly, we preserve our life, not just on this planet, but for all eternity. Because we begin to understand and use that stolen piece of property correctly. And that's what we should be doing. And today, I can go to Facebook, I can go to the news, I can go all kinds of places, and I can see some of the weirdest and dumbest things that are coming out of people's mouths, from our leaders right on down, news people, celebrities, praising things that are so wrong it's pathetic. The wrong use of knowledge. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be using this stolen piece of property correctly, like Solomon, asking for discernment, asking for wisdom on how to be wise and how to use this property correctly. And now we need to go to another break. This is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio, and I'm a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness deep in cyberspace. Now, don't go anywhere, because we have a great meditation coming so that you can advance in your knowledge. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with a great meditation and some closing remarks.
People tend to live with conflicting thoughts between their mental and emotional consciousness, and as a result, they end up blocking their own successes. In choosing one theme, Dr. Anthony Raimondo directs the reader to find truth and satisfaction in 2 easy steps, available at tatepublishing.com.
We are back. I am CyberGino, and this is the Doc Speaks show on Intention Radio, and here is your host, Doc.
Thank you, CyberGino, for bringing us back. And I'm the Doc, and this is the Doc Speaks show. And now we quickly need to go to CyberGino with our meditation. So if you're driving or walking along listening on your smartphone, I would suggest you wait till you get home so that you could sit in your quiet meditative spot and be ready to meditate for 13 to 14 minutes, making sure that all your devices are turned off so that they don't need your attention. So here is CyberGino with the meditation.
Knowledge meditation. Now I'm going to ask you to concentrate on your breathing for a few moments, but I wonder if you can imagine a very strange idea indeed. I wonder if you can imagine that you can actually breathe through your fingertips. Just imagine that rather strange idea that you can actually breathe in through your fingertips. Imagine that you can feel the air moving into your hands quite slowly at first, just with a faint tingling sensation which you might feel on the back of your hands or perhaps in your palms, and then just imagine that feeling moving slowly along your arms through your elbows. Just imagine that comforting flow of air moving through your elbows into your upper arms and then into your shoulders. Both arms, both shoulders, maybe finding again that faint tingling sensation perhaps in your elbows or forearms this time, then moving down through the body, down into your legs and through the thighs, through the knees, into your shins and calves, and again you might feel that faint tingling sensation just there, just below your knees, then down through your ankles and into your feet and out through the feet, and you can find a great deal of calmness and easiness in that rather strange idea that you can breathe in through your fingers, that you can actually feel the air moving through your whole body in one single, warming, comforting directional flow. And because it is a directional flow of air moving through your whole body in one single comforting flow, the calmness and relaxation you breathe in simply doesn't get involved with the tensions and stresses that you breathe away from yourself. The calmness and relaxation that you breath in simply doesn't get involved with the tensions and anxieties that you breath away from yourself, so that with each breath you take, with each word I speak, you find yourself becoming steadily more and more relaxed. With each breath you take, with each word I speak, you become steadily more and more relaxed, beginning now, perhaps, to notice the weight of your head against the back of the chair, wondering if that weight might seem to gently increase as you relax even more. The weight of your feet on the footrest, wondering if that weight, too, might seem to gently increase even as you think about it. And some people can find that sensation of total relaxation that feels as if they are actually beginning to sink gently through the chair, so that it seems almost as if the chair is beginning to envelop you. You are so relaxed, a good feeling, a feeling of great calmness and safety, great calmness that increases with each breath you take, with each word I speak, as you continue to breathe in through your fingers, allowing that comforting, warming, relaxing flow of air to move through your whole body and out through your feet, and this is something you can do for yourself whenever you want to simply settle yourself into a comfortable position with your eyes closed and simply imagine yourself breathing in through your fingers. Imagine that flow of air comforting and relaxing every part of your body, then breathing out through your feet, and each time you breathe out just say to yourself, relax now. Just saying, relax now to yourself with each breath. Your breath will act as a trigger to your subconscious mind, and on the fourth time you say it, you'll find yourself to be more relaxed than you've ever been before. I'd like you to use your imagination now. I want you to imagine. I'd like you to think about a beautiful lush tropical garden. This is a paradise, and like a paradise, it only wonderful things here. No harm can come to you here. This is your garden. It was made just for you. You're lying on a soft grassy area next to a beautiful stream. You're gazing at the blue sky above. A cloud drifts by, and as your eyes follow it across the sky, you feel a tranquil peace fall upon you. You feel the warmth of the sun as it cradles your body. The water from the stream bubbles past you as its pleasing melody soothes you. The soft breeze that is blowing carries the scent of an exotic flower to you, and as you breathe it in, the perfume moves through you, and with each breath a deeper, more relaxed feeling comes over you. A wonderful feeling, a peaceful feeling. You look up into the lush green trees, and at the top of one is the most beautiful butterfly that you have ever seen. It starts to glide, its colorful wings outstretched to catch the breeze. You watch the beautiful butterfly drift slowly downward, and as you see it drift slowly downward, so too will you drift into the deepest state of relaxation. So, as I count from 5 down to 1, you will feel your body drift downward like that of the butterfly. 5. Watch its wings as it glides down through the treetops. Things are getting hazier. 4. It turns its wings to sail with the breeze. You very peaceful, very relaxed. 3. It soars to the lower branches. You can almost feel your body drifting on air. 2. You both drift slowly downward as 1. It lands, and it rests its wings. So do you find yourself calm and deeply relaxed. As you look around this garden, you see a chair that looks more like a throne. You recall the story of King Solomon and how he asked God for wisdom and knowledge to rule his people. You remember how God granted him his request immediately, and that God also had him rule peacefully, and he also became wealthy. As you sit peacefully in the garden, you realize how important it is to use knowledge wisely, how you would have made less errors in your life. You look around the garden and see how beautiful it looks, how everything is growing so perfectly. You realize that with the proper use of knowledge and wisdom comes God's blessing, and that everything can turn out to be just as beautiful and wonderful as this garden. You begin to thank God for the revelation of proper use of knowledge. You thank him also for the gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. You look up at the sky and you see a cloud coming toward you. It takes the share of woman in a long dress with her arms held out, or maybe a dove flying toward you. With each passing second that the cloud comes towards you, the more relaxed, peaceful and still you become. It now seems to be lowering down toward the ground as it comes toward you. You go deeper into relaxation and stillness. You feel so tranquil as the cloud comes closer and closer. You go deeper and deeper into this state of perfect peace and stillness. The cloud goes into your body, taking you deeper into deep relaxation, peace and stillness. You feel a warm glow go through every part of your body, and you are now at perfect peace and stillness. You mind and body are in a perfect state of peace and relaxation. You hear a small voice that seems to come from a distance, but it is right inside you. You not only hear the voice, you feel its presences. I speaks and says, "You have requested well to have wisdom and understanding, which leads to the proper use of my knowledge. Your faith in me will also be increased because you will understand things more clearly. You will find it easier to discern truth through proper use of my knowledge. When you are uncertain, you will pray to me for the answer, and I will provide it for you. Continue to pray and meditate in wisdom, and discernment will manifest in you. The right use of my knowledge will be a blessing to you. It will strengthen your faith, and this will be pleasing to me. Whenever you, or someone else, says or writes the words, Jesus Christ, you may find it much, much easier to serve whatever He will of you. Hearing, reading, or saying the word knowledge can make it even more easy to obey and serve the Lord Jesus Christ than it already is. The right use of knowledge can make you feel so relaxed and open to God's will. Just think of how you feel right now, open and relaxed, and ready to serve God with the proper use of knowledge. Whenever you're here, read, or say, knowledge, that is exactly how you can feel, relaxed, at peace, feeling safe, blessed and ready to serve. It really is that easy. As easy as relaxing and being more open to Christ's will. One words, knowledge, are all that is necessary to feel full of faith, hope, love, safety, peace and ready to serve God. It's as simple as that. You really don't need to try, or concentrate or anything. Just call on the Holy Spirit to help you serve the Lord Christ with the right use of knowledge. This is possible. And with every time you hear this meditation, it should become much easier to serve the Lord Jesus Christ with the right use of knowledge. Now is the time to wake back up, to come out of meditation and feel so wonderful and rested. I am going to count back up to 5, and as I count, you can find yourself returning and coming out of meditation. With each number that passes, you can become more and more alert, aware of your surroundings, as you exit meditation. I will begin to count, now. 1. Starting to wake up now, finding your way back up. 2. More and more awake, it is so easy to wake up. 3. Feeling well rested and wonderful as you can find yourself getting more and more aware of your surroundings. 4. Almost there. Almost totally awake now as you come up and out of meditation. 5. You should now be totally awake and out of trance.
Thank you, CyberGino, for that wonderful meditation. And now we need to go to a break, but don't go anywhere because we have some closing remarks. So stay tuned. This is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio, and we'll be right back with some closing remarks. So stay tuned.
Doc is always in search of new original Christian music in all styles and genres to air on the show. He also loves to have guests on the show with exciting personal stories concerning the personal relationship with Christ. For more information, send an email to doc@docspeakshow.com. If you would like a copy of Doc's book, Choosing One Theme, it is available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also visit our producer's website, acceleratingevolutionllc.com. Now back to the Doc Speaks Show.
People tend to live with conflicting thoughts between their mental and emotional consciousness, and as a result, they end up blocking their own successes. In Choosing One Theme, Dr. Anthony Raimondo directs the reader to find truth and satisfaction in 2 easy steps, available at tatepublishing.com.
We are back. I am CyberGino, and this is the Doc Speaks Show on Intention Radio, and here is your host, Doc.
Thank you, CyberGino, for bringing us back. And this is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio. And I'm your host, Doc, a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness, deep in cyberspace. And I want to, again, thank CyberGino for that wonderful meditation on knowledge. And we certainly need to use knowledge more correctly. What we've been dealing with today on today's show, and I'm just going to kind of rehash some of the ideas, is that we've been told over and over and over again how man, because of Adam and Eve, is in possession of original sin because he was disobedient. And that original sin has passed down to all human beings because of the fact that they were disobedient in the garden and that they ate from the tree of knowledge and broke a covenant with God. But what seems to be missing is that they stole the fruit from the tree and they ate it, is how they exhibited their disobedience. Now, when they ate of that tree, of that fruit, they got and received knowledge, a byproduct of their disobedience, the theft that they committed. Now they're in possession of knowledge which God didn't want them to have. And we know from Scripture that God says now that man has knowledge like us, we can't let him eat from the tree of life. And that's why man gets booted out, to prevent man from eating from the tree of life, which was something he should have done in the first place, ate from the tree of life first. But Adam and Eve, and Eve especially, was tricked into eating of that fruit by the serpent because he didn't want Adam and Eve to have dominion over him, because the Lord had given Adam dominion. So here we are, thousands of years later, and we still have original sin. But what is it? What is this original sin? Well, the original sin, as I've been mentioning throughout the show, is that we're in possession of stolen goods. We're in possession of knowledge, which wasn't rightfully ours to have. And when we look at Scripture, we also see that there were some of men who, for one reason or another, began to use knowledge correctly. And they became the prophets of old, the patriarchs of mankind. And they tried to show the way on how to use knowledge correctly, and yet man continued to use it incorrectly. And we see over time how God punishes mankind for continuing to use knowledge incorrectly. And it's going to happen again, because in the book of Revelations, we know that man is going to continue to misuse knowledge and do things that are totally absurd. And when we look at what people do today, just turn to Facebook and you see some of the most absurd, stupid things. You begin to wonder, right? Man obviously doesn't know how to use knowledge correctly. And that's been the topic of today's show. So our meditation and the information here was to enlighten us with the idea that we are in possession of stolen merchandise, and we really need to start using it more correctly. And this has been the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio. We hope that you tune in again next week for another interesting discussion. Till then, have a great week, and God bless.
People tend to live with conflicting thoughts between their mental and emotional consciousness, and as a result, they end up blocking their own successes. In choosing one theme, Dr. Anthony Raimondo directs the reader to find truth and satisfaction in 2 easy steps, available at tatepublishing.com.